Welcome and thank you for joining me for the introduction to the podcast of Doom. My name is David Appleson. I love writing, research, and world history. I created this podcast to combine my interests into something I could share with the rest of you. The primary purpose of the podcast of Doom is to entertain you, because if you are not entertained by this program, then you will move on to another podcast or do something completely different entirely. Assuming I have done my job of entertaining you, my secondary purpose is to make you think. This is a history podcast, but you're not going to need to memorize any dates. You will not need to remember the names of important battles or famous generals. There will be no essay questions, and you will not need to know the three main reasons why the Crusades happened. Our study in history is about human behavior, and it will be human behavior on a grand scale. We're going to explore moments of monumental, epic failure. We will look at how people behave in life-threatening situations and times of complete, utter despair and hopelessness. We will examine the good decisions, the bad decisions, the lack of proper planning, the acts of enormous hubris, and some plumb examples of karmic payback. This is a podcast about mistakes. The podcast of Doom will be about some of the biggest mistakes ever made and the horrendous consequences that followed. As you can imagine from the title, this podcast will be about decisions and plans that went terribly, irretrievably awry. The well-intentioned and the not-so-well-intentioned will meet painful, untimely demises. This is a podcast about bad things happening to good people, and bad things happening to bad people. To give this podcast some structure, I will focus on events of limited scope and duration. I will examine events in our history where there was mass destruction and loss of lives, with 100 fatalities or more as our baseline figure. I will look at events that could have been altered by human decisions, either before, during, or after the event. There will be a pivotal moment of recognition when the victims will realize the end is near, or they are in harm's way with no chance to escape. The event will occur within a defined period of time. Most importantly, we will try to identify portions of the devastation that could have been prevented by human intervention. In our study, we will examine a wide range of disasters, natural and man-made, from the bubonic plague that wiped out 1/3 of the population of Europe in the 14th century to the more recent genocide in Rwanda that killed hundreds of thousands. We will look at the decisions made leading up to the cataclysm. Each event will be of historical significance, have far-reaching repercussions, affect a large number of people, cause great devastation, and contain a critical moment when all hope will be lost. I will explore the wide gamut of human misery: famine, plague, fires, volcanoes, earthquakes, airplane accidents, train collisions, shipwrecks, rebellions, revolutions, animal attacks, and moments of mass paranoia. My hope is to build a greater appreciation for the world we live in today by sifting through the tragedies of the past. Napoleon's devastating retreat from Moscow, the London smog blight of 1952, Ivan the Terrible's massacre of the citizens at Novgorod, the Triangle Shirtwaist factory fire, the eruption of Mount Pelée in Martinique, the sack of Baghdad by the Mongols in the 13th century, the Spanish flu pandemic at the close of World War I, the man-eating tigress of Champollion, to the government crackdown at Tiananmen Square. Each week I will open with a general topic that will explore the main causes of a major historical calamity. I will look at the sequence of events as the tragedy occurred and describe the long-term effects of the disaster. Most importantly, I will summarize the lessons we can learn from these catastrophes of the past. At the end of every podcast, I will ask for your comments and feedback. Please know that your suggestions for future topics are most welcome. The greatest gift we can receive from those who lived before us is to learn from their successes and failures and apply the lessons learned to our own lives. I want you to think of the kitten, small, prone, and new to the world. The kitten is armed with insatiable curiosity and an innate ability to learn quickly. We are kittens in a world comprised of tremendous and powerful natural and man-made forces. You are practically defenseless against these forces, but well prepared because you have learned from the lessons of the past. We will get started on our journey the week of Halloween by taking a look at the Great Peshtigo Fire of 1872. Until then, keep your ears pinned and your tails taut.